I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Pastor Morrissey.
Thanks for letting me come. Let's pray. Father, I thank you for our city. I thank you for all the people that live in it. And I pray that you'd bless this little city. And thank you for the big heart that so many have in it. And I pray that the heart here would just continue to grow and in love for one another and love for all things good and right. And I pray for our leadership. I pray as they make decisions for the city that it would be for good and for right with a big heart. And so I just pray for each leader here and their families. And I know a little bit about the burden of leadership and what it does to families. So I just pray that you bless spouses and children of our leaders and just watch over each one of them. Thank you for your goodness to us in our city. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Pastor Bob. We appreciate you and your church and your son. Did a great job last time. So before we go to address the agenda, I'd like to call a personal point of privilege, and I would like to share some thoughts that I have about activities within our council. Going back 8 years, when I was approached to run for city council, I met with a few community leaders, some people who were very well known and very well respected and served in many capacities for not only the city, but on a county level and other levels. One of the questions I was given was, the statement was, I will support you, I want to support you, I just have to know that you're not going to quit. And when he said that to me, thought it was kind of funny. I was like, I'm not a quitter, why would I quit? Like, how bad could it be? What would make you want to pick up and walk out one day? And then I've lived the last 8 years, of which I would say, most days I wouldn't think that, but there were a few. So I'd like to start by just telling you that I started serving this community within 6 months of my family and I moving here. Started serving on the Planning Commission, where I sat for about 4 years with Glenn, and we had great civil meetings, and I learned a lot about how the city operates, and I learned about the businesses and the people here because I didn't really know anything except a little bit about some families that my children did sports with, and that's why we came here. Fast forward a few times, a couple people approached me and said, hey, you should really consider running for city council. My response to them was no, an emphatic no, because I know what goes with sitting in a city council seat, as my father served, and I also had history of serving for a mayor on a larger city that had constant city council mayor struggles, and I saw it, and I watched people's lives live it, and it's a lot. It's hard to separate what happens there, take it home, and then come back and try and do it again. But as I thought about my journey here on city council, I thought of the various periods that we've all gone through as a community and what I've gone through as a human being to come back here every time. And this is in no way a oh, poor Paula story. Please don't take it as such. It's kind of a victory speech, and I hope you guys see it as such. The first 2 years sitting on council was a total learning experience for me. I knew one of the council members rather well and did not know the others at all. During our first 2 years was the beginning of the dashing of city managers, starting to pay out city attorney fees, employee referral and recruitment fees, and payout fees for employees. It was not a period of time that I enjoyed. I was not on the bandwagon to do that, but we did it, we got through it. It set the tone for what would come. The next 2 years, 2 new members of council joined and a new mayor. And these years were riddled with accusations, innuendo, and manipulation, and those were the good days. Only be topped off by COVID and Zoom meetings riddled with smoke-filled screens and the occasional dog barking. Councilmember Moffitt and I were able to see things similarly through the dysfunction and the fog and worked together to try and make process count and repeatedly made requests for council to trust the professionals, often being the 2 against the 3. The highlights of this period included the immediate termination of our city manager, several temporary appointments, an elected official having a tirade, quitting during a meeting, and then remarkably, as a result of a legal opinion that also cost the city money, having the ability to dance back in and pick up as if they'd never left. This is what I fondly refer to as the time I was made Mayor of the Month. Also during this time, the Ethics Board was created, which has a little bit of irony to me when I think of the time, the people, and the results of that. We also ousted 2 city managers, one of whom was handpicked. We ensured a settlement for a favored employee, and then on the eve of the election, slid 2 people into council seats in an effort to subvert the election taking place the next day, causing issues for the next council to deal with, and also creating more opportunity for attorneys to make money and the city to pay. The following 2 years began with 2 new council members, a vacant seat, and more drama. This resulted in a pretty interesting swearing-in meeting, followed by one of the council members in a gruff, gravelly voice, tapping me on the shoulder and telling me I had better watch my back as they were coming for me. Yet another fun night at City Hall. This welcomed in the infamous 2-2 vote year and the beginning of a new phase of lawsuits which cost our community more dollars, whereby I endured constant negative comments, false accusations, and intimidation, as well as the undermining of the authority of mayor. I have since learned it is how some people play the game, and I also learned that although some people may no longer serve on this council, they were and are certainly pulling the strings true to form. And true to form, council members then and still continue to come with scripts and to stick with them. We endured more legal fees, existed with a 4-member council for the majority of the 2 years, and then hired a new city manager. A city manager with whom I did not see eye to eye in the beginning, but due to mutual respect for our roles, and each with a desire to truly move the city forward, we started anew and humbly worked together, and today maintain a strong working relationship and can proudly state we have accomplished things that have been inspirational for many councils and city managers for many, many years. And we are moving towards meeting the needs of the community in a positive nature. And this brings me to this council. I and those seated to my left, a phrase that was penned by one to my right, have been called out repeatedly by our fellow council members who happen to sit to my right. One with whom I thought I had a sound relationship right until the last election. This person outright called me stupid during a council meeting and has repeatedly attempted to paint a picture where they are the better, more community-focused champion of the public. The other to my right has done their best to persecute me on every level. His political documents state he is a professional of 2 fields that are both governed by ethical behavior. I find that puzzling. He says that he's an activist, not a willing servant of the public, an activist. I find it hard to believe that he is able to whimsically flee the truth, cast aspersions, state out-and-out falsehoods, and just keep moving along. I have endured 15 months of attacks from him on this dais, and numerous ones prior to him being seated. He has never had a conversation with me. He ignores me if I speak to him. He is picking up where others left off and is carrying the flag of those who came before him. I guess that kind of makes him a minion. All of that may not be fun, and I have dealt with it. We all remember the sticks and stone phrase. I've lived by that. I also live by no weapon formed against me shall prosper. I go before you. I have a warehouse of them in my head that I've brought before me week after week after week. But let's fast forward to our March 4th, 2025 City Council meeting. It is the usual antics of not supporting nominations for boards and commissions, denigrating administration, interrupting the chair, all known usual behavior. But then we take a break. We take a break to go into closed session. And apparently these words that were a gift by one of our community supporters, along with a box of other things that were given to this community, to the city administration, left this little plaque that says, "To lead well is to listen with patience, speak with love, and act with compassion." It doesn't have an author on it. I'm pretty certain it's not scriptural. I don't know what part of these words would be offensive or threatening to someone to the point that the person who never speaks to me, and when I say never, I'm not exaggerating, never, a person who will do all that they can to stay away from me would have the courage, these words gave them, to come up to this dais, stand right on top of it, speak loudly, panting, a little bit animated, a little animated, and carry on and tell me, you should read those words, you should do that, you don't do any of that. My response, first, I'm shocked because this person never interacts with me. He does stuff like that because he thinks he can intimidate me, but he can't intimidate me. He'll do things like that. He said it 3 times. You should do that. You don't ever do that. He then reached over the dais, picked this up, and did that towards me. Words are one thing. Actions are another. I've taken your nonsense, and you can look at me all you want. This man also is not confident in the videography that we have from our city. At city DDA meetings, you can often find him sitting off on the side videotaping me. I don't know if I need to get a restraining order or not. It's a little bit creepy to me, but apparently he has a penchant for annoying other people. So I'm here today to say I do not feel comfortable in this man's presence. He is not a good representative of our community. I don't know why he chose to do that on that day. I don't know what he thinks he can do in the future. Words are one thing, actions are another. His actions were inappropriate. His actions were threatening to me. You want to intimidate me and you want to threaten me, Mr. Binkowski? Is there a reason you want to do this to me? This is his normal behavior. On that day, that was not his behavior. So I just wanted to share with the community what we have here, and also to say, if you thought I started my speech saying I quit, I will never quit. I will stand up for these people in this community like I always have. I will do it with integrity, and I will do it with the support of good people in this community. You can continue your game, but if you ever throw something at me again, you will face the problem. And I did this today not because I wanted to, because honestly, he doesn't really mean that much to me. It's a small man with seriously big problems. But anyone that saw this was affected. Anyone who heard about it was affected and said, you have to stand up for what is right. And it is not right to let a bully be a bully continuously. And I'm sure he'll have other words and say it didn't happen or whatever. There are people that were here. The room was full. That's the whole fun thing. Everyone may not have been watching him, but the room had as many people in it as it does right now. And he was comfortable with that. And he was comfortable doing that to me. Okay, all is well. I did file a police report. And I did ask that a police officer be present in our meetings. And I actually don't see one, which is kind of troubling to me. But I just ask you to support those of us who are here, giving up our free time to do what is good for the community, and know that it all comes with a cost, and this is what the world does. The world makes a lot of noise, and you're supposed to cower. I will not cower to the world's noise. I will stand up for what is right, and I will stand up and be righteous. And if you catch me doing something wrong, I would expect you to ask me to behave appropriately, and I guess that's all I have to say. But thank you for letting me take my time. I really appreciate it. Roll call, please, Michelle.
Councilmember Anderson.
Here.
Councilmember Binkowski.
Here.
Mayor Milan.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Moffett.
Present.
Councilmember Shepherd.
Here.
Thank you. We are all accounted for. I would like to call for an approval of the agenda.
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve the agenda for today, Tuesday, March 18th, 2025, as presented.
Support.
Thank you very much.
Madam Mayor, I would like to,
Excuse me. You are a purveyor of all things Robert's Rules, and I find it interesting when you ever just blurt things out. If you'd like to be recognized by the chair, you may have the floor. If you do not get recognized by the chair, I would ask that you kindly refrain from speaking. Mr. Binkowski.
Madam Mayor, I would like to remove item 7A from the agenda.
Support. Any other comments?
I've got some comments on it. I just don't think it's worth this council's time and effort. No insult at all to the artist. I just don't think that this is in our city's budget and future, and I'd rather not take the time to deal with it at this meeting.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
On behalf of the administration who has supported the investigation and potential design and potential necessity of this, I ask that the council at least allow the presentation to be heard.
I think at least the time and effort was given to that. I don't think 10 minutes of our time is that much to ask for something like this.
So what if we were to move it to 9G so that there could be substantial conversation about it instead of it being a presentation?
Yeah, that's fine.
So,
I believe they are simply prepared to make a presentation tonight.
so we have a motion made that we need a vote on. And then I can make another motion to move it to later in the agenda.
Michelle, what's our motion?
Councilmember Binkowski,
Yes.
Mayor Milan,
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Moffett,
Yes.
Councilmember Shepherd,
No.
Councilmember Anderson.
No.
So I move,
I'd ask that you be acknowledged by the chair before you speak, please.
as long as you do that for everyone on the
I
dais and
will.
not just the people that you don't like.
I like you a lot, actually.
I move that the HART presentation be moved to night item 9G.
Support.
Okay, roll call, please, Michelle.
Mayor Milan,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Moffett,
Yes.
Councilmember Shepherd.
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Binkowski.
No.
Okay, we just moved our HART presentation to item number 9G. So we will, didn't we approve the rest of the agenda? It's all included, correct? We approved the agenda and moved that to item 9G.
We have to have a roll call for that.
Yes.
Back to the approval of the agenda.
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Binkowski,
Yes.
Mayor Milan,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Moffett,
Yes.
Councilmember Shepherd.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We've approved the agenda, moving to item 9G. So we will ignore item number 7, and we'll move on to item number 8, which is consideration of approving the following consent.
public
Oh, I did
comments
move public comment. Thank you for speaking and saving me, I appreciate that. Public comment for items on the agenda. If you have public comment you'd like to come before us, we ask you to come to the front and give your name and address, and we'll give you 3 minutes.
I would like to speak. I don't want to, but I'm going to. My name is Joanne McCauley. I live at Renshaw Apartments, 121 Renshaw, apartment 102. And at this point, I speak on what is on the agenda. I had my notes, but you guys just messed them up. Is there any way that our city attorney can tell us what these lawsuits are that's out there? Do we, as residents of Clawson, get to know whether we're suing them or they're suing us? Or is that information available to us as a member, a resident of Clawson?
Ms. McCauley, I'm sorry, but this, as you know, this is not a back and forth time. If you'd
Well, I
like,
thought the last one was.
no, it's no public
Do we have
comment
a
is
back and forth one?
supposed to be.
Do we have a back and forth one?
Not really, but
And what may
you know,
I speak on?
sometimes we break the rules to kind of
I
see the
noticed.
public. So, and we do it because we care about you, right?
Thank you.
But if you could make a request to him, he can get that information back
I
to
will
you.
email him?
Okay.
Is that what
Well,
you're
you
trying
can
to do?
make the request right here, and he can take it.
I'm happy to
Yeah.
speak with the young lady at the end of the meeting if she hangs out.
I'm sorry, I don't hear what you're saying, because
I said I'm happy to speak with you at the end of the meeting if you're going to be here for the end of the meeting.
after the meeting,
Yes, ma'am.
we will meet, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now on the heart, you have moved that, so I cannot speak on that right now?
Yes, you
I
You
can.
may
can.
speak on it, yes.
Oh, wonderful, this is great. Okay, I noticed in the emails, or in the presentation that we get on Clawson Community Forum, that the material has moved to copper. Has this heart been approved yet?
I'll answer that question because it's fair. This is a presentation to City Council. This HART thing has been discussed for quite a while. It was championed by our Chamber of Commerce and a group of other people. It has never been presented to City Council. So City
Okay.
Council is going to hear it the same time you are.
Okay, so the reason I know about it is because I watched a ADA meeting, is it? I found out about the alley. That was exciting. I think that's a great idea. But anyhow, I just was curious at the cost and who pays for it.
That is.
You cannot do that, okay. Another email?
It's a presentation. If you listen to the presentation, I think many of your questions
I've
will be
listened to a
answered.
presentation already.
You listened to a presentation today
Correct,
to a
correct.
different body. There will be a presentation today. I would say, get comfortable and let's see what you hear.
I'm going to do that. So now, can I speak on what is not on the agenda, or is that for another time?
You'll have to save that for the part of our agenda
I
that
will
talks
save
about
that.
not on.
Thank you so
the
much,
agenda.
Mayor
No problem.
Milan and council. And I appreciate speaking into the microphone, because my hearing is not what it used to be.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak for items on the agenda?
Hi, I'm Jamie Gills Takanochi. I live at 1072 North Stephen. I wanted to talk about Agenda 9G now, I guess. And I know we're just hearing a presentation today, and we're going to hear the cost and everything else. I guess I just have a request that we think about what other things we might do with that amount of money. I saw the old price, and I know everything's changed, so we don't know, but it feels to me like that is more performative of saying we're a little city with a big heart. And something that might actually be better is to do something that serves the community right now. I don't know what that is, maybe something with the Huntington Center or special programs for people or learning, but it feels like it feels performative to me, like, look at us, we have a big heart, where actually we could have a big heart and do something. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak?
Hello, Erin Redmond, Elmwood. I noticed you didn't require an address, but Erin Redmond, West Elmwood Avenue. I wanted to speak on item 9B. I was just curious, about a few things. I realized that the city manager said that this was brought up through a working group that he has, where they discuss priorities and language for the ordinance committee. It seems to me that that's not really something that is usually done. Just wondering where that comes from. As that working committee, I'm not sure if they've looked into the charter and the ordinances. I know the ordinance that was written does address that it does abide, or that it will follow those rules, but every board and commission has its own rule, has its own, state law that enacts that body. So I think that within those, it has ways to qualify, ways to appoint, and ways to pull members off of those committees. So I'm wondering if they've actually looked into it. I know the DDA for removal, you have to go through the governor, much like the city council. I don't know all the boards and commissions, but planning commission does have that process as well. I also was curious, with the confines of the ordinance committee, I remember that the city council gave them power to look over, our newly enacted charter, and I didn't see any changes in our charter that this would apply to. So I'm just wondering what the scope is of that charter committee, and whether or not they're even a body that should be, drafting ordinances. I feel like that most of the Open Meetings Acts really wants things to happen in the public eye, the reason for, the intent, the dialogue, the back and forth. And I'm a big believer, I think the city is all big believers in, transparency. The mayor spoke earlier about troubled past of, lawsuits that came from Open Meetings Act violations. So it would just be helpful to start doing more of those works in front of the public. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else for public comment? Okay, we will close public comment for items on the agenda and move to item number 8A, which is consideration of approving the following consent agenda. The consent agenda consists of item A, which is minutes of the regular city council meeting held on Tuesday, March 4th, 2025, as presented, and item B, which is a list of bills in the amount of $1,246,206.48.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there support?
Support.
Thank you. Roll call, please. Michelle?
Mayor Pro Tem Moffett,
Yes.
Councilmember Shepherd,
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Binkowski,
Yes.
Mayor Milan.
Yes. Thanks. We've approved our consent agenda. We'll move on to agenda item 9A, which is consideration of a second reading and adoption of ordinance number 787 to amend Clausen Code of Ordinances, Chapter 2, Administration, Article 5, Finance, to add Division 3, Contracts.
Madam Mayor, I move the second reading and adoption of ordinance number 787 to amend the Clausen Code of Ordinances, Chapter 2, Administration, Article 5, Finance, to add Division 3 contracts be approved.
Support.
Thank you. Mr. Binkowski?
Madam Mayor, I'll just state again that I am against this particular ordinance because it does not adequately safeguard against, it doesn't protect the competitive bid process.
Duly noted. Mr. Raker?
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
I didn't hear that. What did you say?
Duly noted.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Per the new Charter 14.01, the City Council shall establish by ordinance the procedures for the purchasing or contracting for supplies, materials, equipment, and service. This item was before you on January 7th and was not supported by council due to the removal of the waiver of competitive bidding requirement, of which would have required 4 members of council to vote in the affirmative. That component has been included in this version and was discussed at the Ordinance Committee meeting on January 21st, 2024. The first meeting was approved at the City Council meeting on February 4th, 2025. The second reading and adoption failed at the City Council meeting on February 18th. This amended ordinance was approved for the first reading during the March 4th, 2025 council meeting and is before you for second and approval.
Any concerns? Questions? Roll call, please, Michelle.
Councilmember Shepherd,
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Binkowski,
No.
Mayor Milan,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Moffett.
Yes.
Thank you. We have just approved ordinance number 787 to amend the Clausen Code of Ordinance, Chapter 2, Administration, Article V, Finance, and to add Division 3 contracts for approval. Moving to agenda item 9B, we have consideration of the first reading of ordinance to amend Chapter 2, Administration, Article 4, Departments, adding Section 2-148, establishing a removal process for elected and appointed officials convicted of crimes.
So moved.
Support.
Madam Mayor, I respectfully suggest that, that his hand was not raised before he made the motion.
Wow, you pay attention to some really good stuff. Thank you.
I'm just pointing it out.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Keep us straight here. Does anyone, Mr. Raker? Point of order. Point of order, please. Thank you. I get it, but thank you. Mr. Raker?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The idea of this ordinance came through discussion regarding the ethics ordinance within the ordinance working group, which is comprised of the city attorney, key staff, and myself. The working group addresses priorities and develops language for the ordinance committee's consideration. This item was discussed at both the January 7th and 21st ordinance committee meetings. As Section 1 purpose of this ordinance states, the purpose of this ordinance is to uphold the public trust and ensure the integrity of the city of Clausen by providing for the termination of employment or removal from office of employees, elected officials, and appointed officials who are convicted of crimes that undermine their ability to serve the public effectively. At the February 4th City Council meeting, after considerable discussion, an amendment was considered to include a section to identify the authority responsible to notify the governor for the separation of an elected official. It was discussed that this ordinance would be reviewed by the Ordinance Review Committee prior to reconsideration of the first reading at a future City Council meeting, which is tonight. The original motion then was voted on to include the amendment.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or concerns?
I have questions. So, Mr. Nushai, can you, there's definitions here, but clarity on some of the definitions. For appointed officials, can you tell me who that encompasses?
Councilmember, or Mayor Pro Tem, that those would be all administration and then all boards.
Okay, so all administration and all boards is who
Yes, ma'am.
that encompasses. And so I guess looking at the charter, it clearly outlines what the qualifications are for someone to run for office. Yet this ordinance empowers the city clerk to not put someone on the ballot who meets all these qualifications, but based on a different criteria.
On convictions, yes, ma'am.
And I have a difficulty with that, because if someone meets the qualifications and receives all the signatures on the petition the community wants them to run, then the voters should be able to choose who's elected and who's not. And having an ordinance that usurps what the charter says the qualifications are and adds some other ancillary qualifications, I think doesn't serve the public well, and it goes against what the charter has established as the rules and qualifications. And I think that, a lot of the rest of it, I'm fine with, but empowering the clerk to remove someone who meets what the charter says and prohibit them from being on the ballot and denying the public the right to choose who they want to represent them is what would cause me to vote no on this ordinance.
Anyone else?
Yes, the city attorney, I have a question. When it talks about removing somebody who's been convicted of a felony or misdemeanor, is that previous to their serving or while they're serving?
That would be both. And we're talking again about appointed officials, right? As far as, just per the discussion last time, with respect to elected officials, that's a different, criteria is used, different state law applies. This council can enact an ordinance with respect to appointed officials to be able to offer greater protection to the city and to the citizen than the charter already does.
Well, it does increase the ability to remove people. I imagine the question is, I understand removing people if they've committed these offenses while they're serving.
Yes.
But if it's in the past, I don't understand why.
Well, not in the past, I'm sorry, if you're talking about a previous offense.
Yeah, for example, we want to appoint somebody to planning commission or any commission. If they commit an offense in the past, I don't know that should be held against them. If they commit the offense while serving, I can see removing them. But are we going to hold the past against them?
Well, if it's one of these particular offenses, right, crimes of moral turpitude or indecency, things of that nature, if you vote for this ordinance, then yes. If you wanted something different, right, if you wanted to parse that out further, obviously we could go back to the drawing board and bring it back to you.
I guess I'm not an attorney, so I don't know how to interpret the various moral turpitude and the such. I'll keep it to more of a street level. Let's talk about misdemeanors.
So there was a lot of discussion back and forth, and some of it even last time we were before you. But at the Ordinance Review Committee, we had a lot of conversation with respect to the nature of the offenses. And we are, when it comes to crimes, and I'm getting to the specific point, and I'm just going to locate it for us. The definition of crime means any felony or misdemeanor for which the official has been convicted of any crimes of moral turpitude, indecency, misconduct in office, corruption, or any act undermining the public trust. Okay, and there was conversation at the Ordinance Review Committee with respect to what that encompasses and what it doesn't encompass. What it encompasses are exactly crimes of that: theft, dishonesty, corruption, things of that nature, indecency. What it doesn't encompass, for example, is the other. We have about, 1,000 or so misdemeanors on the books. Things like driving a suspended license, drunk driving, everything else under the sun that you could possibly have, malicious destruction of property, leaving the scene of a property damage accident. Those are not included because they would fall outside of the purview of that particular statement. We're talking about things that deal with, again, theft, corruption, That's what that statement.
Which could still be categorized as misdemeanors in some situations.
In certain specific situations, yes.
Okay.
Is moral impertitude a legal term?
Yes, ma'am.
Like,
It's a
oh,
term
it
of art,
is?
yes.
So is
Moral
like,
turpitude, yes.
so there's like, this misdemeanor falls under that category, or I mean,
Yes,
like.
actually, it comes from immigration law, yes. It's,
Oh.
it's an entire body of law.
Okay, so we
means-
could say this misdemeanor's in that category and this one's not?
Yes, ma'am.
I did not know that, okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Actually, what it means is, for example, with respect to, let's talk about retail fraud. If somebody committed retail fraud, crimes of moral turpitude, which encompass retail fraud, would be only if their retail fraud was punishable by over 1 year in jail. All our retail fraud at the city level is up to 93 days in jail, so it technically would not encompass that. It would be for those more elevated crimes. So that's that analysis.
So I feel much more comfortable about that part of it.
Good.
I still,
I'm here every Tuesday.
don't forget to tip your waiters and waitresses.
That's right.
But I still, you know, to empower the clerk to remove someone from the ballot is still, I think,
No, ma'am. Well, if I may address that point, and I can understand, and you may vote against it, and that's obviously entirely your purview. But with respect to empowering the clerk, we would empower no one else. The clerk is the one that gets the affidavit from the party, from the person that is filing to run for office. And the clerk's duties, if you recall, are ministerial in nature. They're just checking the box. It's not that they're saying you may or may not run. They're checking the box. If this body adopts this ordinance, you're just giving it just another duty, just like the one that talks about age and those kind of limitations.
but that's not in the qualifications of the charter. So someone would,
Doesn't have to be. None of the, you have a code of ordinances that consists of 86 chapters. The charter is only 18
I
sections.
understand, but the public voted for these qualifications, and so that's, and the public signing the petitions to put someone on. So that's who the public is interested in putting up for discussion. That's why I have an issue with that.
Understood.
There's all these things that I think are respectful of the process.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Raker?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I think the public largely may be signing a petition absent knowing potential misgivings of the candidates. And so then therefore you have the clerk that provides that additional character reference in a sense that, this person does not have or perhaps wrongfully signed their affidavit and there's an issue.
Councilmember Binkowski?
Mr. Nishai, how will the clerk perform this background check? And how will the clerk decide whether a misdemeanor or felony is one of the particular ones that aren't prohibited?
They're not performing a background check. We're simply going to have an item in our affidavit of candidacy that candidates for office apply, basically fill all the time, as all 5 of you did.
So we're still relying upon the petitioner to provide the correct information?
Yes, ma'am.
Honest information?
Yes, ma'am.
We're not empowering our clerk to be,
They're not the guard at the gates of Hades, but the clerk will serve the same function as they currently do with respect to the age requirement, with respect to whether a person is a citizen of the United States or not. All those qualifications, which we don't go to check whether the person is a U.S. citizen, we just have an affidavit that gets submitted to the clerk.
I'm going to respectfully, I'm sorry, can I talk?
yes, you may. Thank you.
I respectfully suggest that maybe Section D gets reworked before we vote on it, because it really does say the city clerk shall ensure pursuant to this ordinance that no person convicted of a crime shall be added to the ballot, and I'm just not sure how that's being done. It sounds like you're saying, if we want to say that the city clerk shall inform prospective candidates that if they're convicted of a felony, they may be removed or referred, that's one thing. But the way it's worded now, it seems like it's the clerk's job,
Right, and obviously the body can do as it pleases, and if you decide to send it back, we will address it. But I don't know that it is required. Again, the clerk will be doing no more with respect to this section as it does with respect to every other qualification that it already has. The language that it shall, that's the language that we must have for the clerk to give him the authority to be able to include it in the affidavit, right, of candidacy.
I don't see a problem with it. Based on that, it's just another function within the functions that already exist within that office. And it's not empowering a clerk to be able to go out and vet or, destroy someone based on, they're not out investigating. They're just
Right.
ensuring that you checked the box, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank
And
you.
if you recall, we've had issues before, and not in this situation, but with respect to the age component, for example. And did the clerk go out there to investigate the age concerns? Apparently not at the time. Should we have a process where those are lower not capitalized I investigated? Yes, perhaps. But obviously, the duties of the clerk are ministerial. The affidavit is what delivers for purposes of this ordinance as well.
Well, and we want to ensure we don't have issue with the clerk, because that clerk that we're discussing point blank said, not my job, I'm not going to verify this information, right? So we want to make sure that the roles and responsibilities are understood as well, so we wouldn't wind up in that position again. But we wouldn't want it, I don't think this was written as, we definitely don't want it to be used as a method of disqualifying anyone for any undue reason or for eliminating people. It's not what it's for. It's just for ensuring qualifications like the other qualifications that we have. In my eyes. Anyone else?
Just going back to obviously it's a different topic, but on the age, there's a process, right? Just checking to see,
Yes.
the age versus what's in the charter.
That's correct.
Okay, so this is a similar process?
Yeah, ministerial process.
Okay.
The person files an affidavit, are you 25? I don't believe anybody's checking the IDs.
Okay, then roll call, please, Michelle.
Councilmember Anderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Binkowski?
No.
Mayor Milan?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Moffett?
No.
Councilmember Shepherd?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Just approved. Our first reading for the ordinance to amend the Clausen Code of Ordinances, Chapter 14, and, no, sorry, I'm on the wrong one. That will be brought back before us again regarding, I have two for animals. I'm ahead of myself, because I really want to talk about chickens, because you know how fun that was first time around. So, the Clausen Code of Ordinances, Chapter 2, regarding establishing a removal process, has been approved for the first round, and we will see it again in the near future for the second reading. And now we'll move to item 9C, which is consideration of a first reading of an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 14, Animals, Article 1, in general, Section 14-3, domestic chickens, to add educational facilities.
Madam Mayor, I move the first reading of ordinance to amend the Clausen Code of Ordinances, Chapter 14, Animals, Article 1 in general, Section 14-3, domestic chickens, to add educational facilities be approved.
Support. Nick, would you like to address this for us, please?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. Last fall, a business owner located at 456 East 14 Mile spoke during a council meeting about the domestic chicken ordinance. The current ordinance, 14-3 domestic chickens, states that any person residing in a residentially zoned property in a single-family detached structure obtaining a permit from the city may keep per household no more than 4 hen chickens in the city for personal use only and not for any business or commercial use. If it is the council's wish, the ordinance can be amended by adding language extending the ordinance to educational facilities as outlined in the proposed amended ordinance.
Thank you, Nick. Does anyone have any questions or concerns, comments regarding this item?
So it was just the one location that asked for it. We haven't had any other educational, and what would they qualify under for education?
So this ordinance amendment is simply adding educational facilities as a permitted service areas, and so they still have to be zoned in a single-family district. So and they have to be deemed an educational facility, which, this specific site meets those qualifications.
Okay, no other questions? Let's move to roll call, please, Michelle.
Councilmember Binkowski,
Yes.
Mayor Milan,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Moffett,
Yes.
Councilmember Shepherd.
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Thank you. Just agreed to amend our Code of Ordinances, Chapter 14, Animals, Domestic Chickens, to add educational facilities, and the Green Acres will be very happy, I believe. Next item we have is item 9D, which is consideration of appointment of Erica Clute-Kubin to the Board of Ethics to the expired term of September 15th, 2023, to expire September 15th, 2026.
So moved.
Support.
Any comments? Roll call, please.
Mayor Milan,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Moffett,
Yes.
Councilmember Shepherd.
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Binkowski.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Cuban, for willingness to serve on our Board of Ethics. We look forward to your taking part in our fun processes here. Next up, we have item 9E, which is consideration of appointment of Brian Murphy to the Board of Ethics to the expired term of September 15th, 2024, to expire September 15th, 2027.
I move the appointment of Brian Murphy to the Board of Ethics to the expired term of September 15th, 2024, to expire September 15th, 2027 be approved.
Support.
Any comments? Roll call, please, Michelle.
Mayor Pro Tem Moffett,
Yes.
Councilmember Shepherd,
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Binkowski,
Yes.
Mayor Milan.
Yes. And thank you, Mr. Murphy, for your willingness to serve on the Board of Ethics. We hope that it's a positive experience for you. Next item is item 9F. We have consideration of fiscal year 2025-2026 goals and objectives.
Madam Mayor, I move the fiscal year 2025-2026 goals and objectives be approved.
Support.
Mr. Aker.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Last year, the City Council and administration had productive discussions on its mutually agreed upon goals and objectives for the current fiscal year. Late in January, all department heads and myself met to review in preparation for the upcoming fiscal year budget for 25-26. The product of their review was provided in the January 30th issue of the Friday Feedback and was on the February 18th and March 4th, 2025 agendas for council's consideration. The attached is the final document, including the input from staff and council for FY 25-26.
Thank you. Any comments, concerns? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Shepherd,
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Binkowski,
No.
Mayor Milan,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Moffett.
No.
We had just approved our fiscal year 2025-2026 goals and objectives. And we will move on to item number 9G, which is the presentation of the heart.
Madam Mayor, I move that we receive the presentation for the Clausen Heart.
Support.
Mr. Raker.
Madam Mayor, this was just simply a presentation of the HEART project, which was developed by 3 individuals who are neither appointed or elected and are simply out for the greater good and are benevolent participants in the community. They briefed the DDA probably almost 2 years ago. The concern for the design has been modified to some degree, and I thought it was also a good idea for them to get in front of council to at least have you hear this and this idea see the light of day.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor and City Council, I thank you for letting us do this presentation. I didn't bring my glasses. I usually have 4 pairs, so I'm going to talk off the top of my head, which thanks, Sue. I
Do you want
appreciate it. No, I left my paper in the car. I just want to say that obviously COVID was a terrible time for all of us. I too lost somebody. And many people in the city lost people, or they might have not been in the city, but there were relatives and friends of others. In 2022, we had our first event after COVID had sort of passed us by. It was our Claws and Paws adventure. And afterwards, everybody was sort of just chilling out, I guess you'd say. We were tired. We had done a lot of things that day. It was very successful considering what had occurred just months before. And we were just talking about how wonderful the city was to come and support us. There were still people wearing masks because obviously there was some fear, but we had a good turnout considering what had just happened. And afterwards, as we're sitting there were a few of us, Mr. Riker was there, and we just were talking amongst ourselves and saying, I wish we could do something to sort of show everybody what this little city with the big heart means. Well, as we were talking about different things, the bean, the cube, just the fist, even the tiger at the Ford Field. You know, people go there to take pictures and things like that, and how it draws people and everything. Well, then comes along a couple, and little did I know, the man that was part of this couple is an artist. And the more we talked, we were sitting around for quite a while talking about what could we do? What would make an impact? What would bring business to people to the businesses? What would it also bring? Because we all know when people shop, 70 cents for every dollar comes back to the community, whether it be by employment or something else. How can we bring people to Clawson? How can we show that we are the little city with the big heart? And so the heart idea was brought about. We did present it back in '23. Unfortunately, I was with my dying sister who was mentally challenged in Indiana. I was not part of it. I heard that there was some concerns because it would not bring any business to Clawson at all, absolutely none. And that was also documented. And quite frankly, I don't agree with that, but that's just my opinion. So tonight, we're going to hear a little bit about the project, and we just want to talk about it and get it out there. And maybe back then, a couple of years ago, we needed to bring it to the city council, but there was just a lot of things going on. And when we found out that some people were totally against not bringing anything to light because it wouldn't bring any business, we just sort of let it slide for a while. But we just thought it's time to get this out there again and go from there. So, excuse me, I'm talking off the top of my head. My mind's going a million miles an hour. But I'd like to introduce Mr. Fred Gannat and Pastor. They were all part of this process, and we have really put in a lot of time about this and a lot of effort. So at least just hear our project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Fred Gannat, good old Fredo Catholico Gannat. So let me start by just telling you a little bit about my resume. So I'm a fine artist. I graduated from Center for Creative Studies with a degree in fine arts in sculpture. From there, I worked in prototype shops, designing and building prototypes for companies. Then I went on to the movie industry, and I worked there for 20 years, working on movies like Avengers, Spider-Man, stuff like that. So I've worked with lots of large groups asking for a lot of large things to be made. The most recent company that I worked for had hired me as a contractor to design large-scale sculptures for a $1 billion company that has nearly 40,000 properties around the country. So what I would do is I would design these concepts. So I designed about 50 concepts for them. Then I built probably about a dozen of those pieces before my contract and their contract with the other company had completed. So that's kind of what I've done. I've always done that, and that's where they came along and they found me and they figured that's what I do. So I came up with a design. As you can see, it's the Clawson Project. It is a large heart to reflect the concept of the little city with a big heart. So the first project that you might have seen would have been the stainless version. This is a copper version. And it's the size will range from around 8 to 10 feet tall, depending on the space or whatever other factors might come across. So it's a copper piece. The original proposed site was the corner of 14 and Livernois. And it would sit there, and the piece was originally meant to be, like I said, in that corner, but we've discussed other options of that piece, including parks and across in front of City Hall here. And there are any number of spaces that this piece could go. The external material would be copper. So this piece would be made out of copper. I have a sample piece right here.
Thank you.
That piece right there is 0.63 thousandths of an inch thick. As a reference, the Statue of Liberty is 0.9 thousandths, so it's just slightly thinner than the material that's on the Statue of Liberty. The material would be riveted together with no other fastening materials, no welding, nothing like that. And in time, there would be a patina that would build up over it. So over a span of about 30 years, it would turn from the bare, shiny copper to a nice green patina. The reason I chose copper is because of what it says to the community about the passage of time. It represents warmth and just a general sense of class. The structure internally would be steel, and it would be able to rotate on its pedestal on a bronze bearing, so it would be heavy enough that it can't be spun and just spun wildly. So it would be able to be spun and rotated into different positions on a bronze bearing with a steel structure. At the core of this, the copper structure would be able to be lowered down onto this core, which is the next page, Nick, please. Which would be a steel 8-inch in diameter post that would be hollow, and that would contain an enclosure. And in this enclosure, what's added to this design is a time capsule. And in this time capsule, you'd be able to put any number of items that would represent this community, and photos, maps, anything. And on top of that, I include a Lexan tube that would be sealed with an inert gas desiccant and an oxygen absorber. Within that Lexan container would be a hard drive, and that hard drive would be large enough to be able to contain 800 hours of messages from the members of the community. So any number of people, everybody in this community could literally leave a 1-minute message in this time capsule that can be opened in 100 years to be able to say what you want to say to the rest of the future community. And that's basically the essence of this piece. But other than that, I think that it does have other values other than what it can bring financially to the city. It captures the soul of the city. It captures what people want to say. And what I'll say is there's not really much I can say to how much money it will make for the city, and it will cost money to make. And the way I budget everything that I make is the standard. You figure the price of the materials and then calculate from there the labor that goes into it. It's generally 25 to 75% ratio. And currently I do have a value or a price on the materials for this. But other than that, I think there's not really much else unless there are questions about this project that I would say, other than it gives people a chance to actually use their voice to be able to say something to the future. I know that not a lot of people will want to not be heard. I think this room is a testament to people wanting to be heard for what they want to say to be heard. And who knows? In 100 years, maybe what we say today has different value. But what I will ask everyone to do, everyone in this room, anybody listening anywhere else, anyone sitting up there, just go home, think about a 1-minute message. 1 minute. 1 minute is not free, but it is affordable. Just go home, ask yourself, what am I going to say to the people in 100 years? And if you know, chances are it's going to be a message that you're going to say that's both hopeful or transcends your differences or creates some sense that your problems have a different perspective. So whatever it is, go home, make that message to yourself. And if you don't think you have a message that is worth hearing, then maybe this project isn't for you. If anybody else anywhere doesn't think that they have something to say that nobody else wants to hear, then maybe this project isn't for you. And maybe, who knows? I'm not going to speak to where the money can come from, but the time is affordable. The 1 minute that you take to speak to yourself about what you want to say to everybody else is affordable.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pastor Traxel?
Good evening. Thank you, Council, for allowing us to speak on behalf of this Heart Project. I live at 381 Lincoln here in Clawson, Michigan. We built a house here in 2014, and me and my wife and our kids absolutely love our city. As you know, I work in Birmingham. I cut hair. I'm a barber. And I always speak quickly about where I live, where I come from. I live in Clawson, and I can tell you everyone that comes across Birmingham in my barber chair says, I love Clawson. It's a great, great place. We love the restaurants. We love the downtown. We love about it. So Clawson is definitely a city on the map that people know about. It's no longer a sleepy town. I'm 47. I'm not old, and I'm not young, but I know there's a lot of young people that I deal with that know about Clawson. So there is an it factor, whether or not some of us old fogies want to hear that. There is an it factor that Clawson has that is coming into this area. I am a preacher. I'm a pastor here in Clawson, so I've got notes. They'll be really quickly. My wife doesn't like me when I go off my notes, so I'll keep very pointed here tonight. Love my beautiful wife here to support me as well. So I'll stick with my notes. So everything has been said. I don't want to rehash what's already been said, but maybe perhaps I can say a few things that would cause us to think about why. Simon Sinek wrote a book called It Starts with a Why. Why do we do what we do? The Heart idea came from a simple conversation about how we could celebrate all that our city is, all that I love about our city. Our city does fit perfectly into the tagline, the little city with a big heart. We had discussed in our meeting what other cities had done in the past to celebrate their unique character, what makes their cities nice. And we thought, what could be a better emblem of our city and a pillar of recognition than a large heart in our city? A tangible monument that would represent the spirit of our city that we see every day. I see it every day in our city. It's in the way our neighbors look after each other. It's our police officers that, through their Cops Cares program, do a weekly round to our senior citizens' homes just to make sure they're doing okay. It's Claws and Paws and a yearly busy but fun trick-or-treat trail. It's knowing your community leaders and seeing them in our city, knowing their names, and the names of our favorite teachers at the school right here. It's a small community that grieves the loss of its citizens and rallies around the families to tell them their loved one will never be forgotten by this community. It will produce a much asked question from people in Birmingham. Have you seen the heart in Clawson? It will be a draw. It absolutely will be a draw. Other than our great restaurants It's a reason for people to come down to our awesome downtown area so that they can grab a cool group picture in front of the Big Heart in Clawson before they dine in our restaurants. I do believe many engagement pictures will be taken in front of the Heart from some of our children that are young now that one day will be married. They'll have their engagement pictures in front of the Heart from the city they grew up in. There will be a cool factor. I know you don't like that word. There will be a cool factor there. And it's a landmark. It becomes a landmark. It sits as a reminder to all those that may have moved away that when they see the Heart, they know they've finally come home again. The Heart is all of us, and hopefully, if all goes well, the Heart will be continue to represent new generations that come after us, of Clawsonites long after we are gone, that in 100 years, they'll hear Grandpa Traxel talk to his grandkids about what he loves about this city. This project brings a hands-on experience to the greatest tagline of any city, the little city with a big heart. And simply to address the performative feel of the project, I would say this is not a performative piece as much as the Statue of Liberty is not also a performative piece, but rather a reminder of what we stand for and what we are. This is a reminder and a place on a map that tells everyone that passes through Clawson that this city, what this city has held since 1940, that we are a city with a big heart, which, by the way, someone with a big heart is described as someone that's kind and generous and compassionate and caring towards others. It describes someone who is emotionally open and willing to help those in need. And let me tell you, as a citizen of this city, that's my heart's desire. That's how I want to live my life. And I know that within the city are many people just like it. That's what this heart, I may not convince you guys to go for this, but I will tell you, this is my thoughts behind what this heart represents. It's more than copper, it's more than a place, but it represents what the city is, and that's what makes our city very special. Thank you for hearing us tonight.
Thank you very much. Mr. Ricker, did you have anything?
Madam Mayor, just a reminder that this was a presentation. It wasn't necessarily meant to host discussion. I think Fred did a fantastic job provoking reflection, and maybe that's for the moment, if it's council's desire, where you leave it, so you go back home and reflect on it. But if it's council's discretion to discuss, so they desire.
So we moved it so we could have discussion, so I'd like for us to have the opportunity to make our comments. And if I can go ahead, I have comments. A couple of things. We talk about the ARPA money and what we learned from COVID. One of my first memories of COVID was when my best friend dropped off a mask, a handmade mask, at my house and called me and said, "Please wear it. I want you to be okay." So one of my lessons from COVID was how we take care of each other. And the money that we got from that horrific event should be used, as my former yoga instructor said, should be used to take care of each other. I'm not opposed to having a heart. I'm opposed to using this hard-earned money, the money that the community received through loss and strife and grief and mental anguish, because that was a terrible time for me. I lived alone. My kids were out of state. It was a horrible time. And we should do good for each other with that money. We should build up the senior center, help the residents at the Renshaw Apartments. We should do something for each other. If the heart wants to move forward, I think a 501(c) is the way to do it. If it's going to be about the community, then the community should have skin in the game in having it, right? And especially in light of the fact that we increased everybody's tax expenses with the road bond, the school bond. The city has always stepped up and given them money for the things that they believe and the things that are important to them. And this could be another example. If the city believes in it and wants it, then let them put the money forward in a 501(c). Open up the organization and let those who are interested in it, put their money towards it and have a piece of it. Those are my thoughts.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I appreciate the coming back and showing the presentation. I think this iteration was very informative. Obviously, there's a passion there. I think we all have passions regarding this project. But one of the things that struck me regarding the example was the Statue of Liberty. And it turned out that the Statue of Liberty actually was a gift to the United States. And so I guess I'm following the same line that, if that's something that there's funds that come from someplace that is backed by the citizens of this town, this county, this country that support that, then I'd be loving to see that come back.
Councilmember Bukowski.
Just a comment that I think most people probably are thinking the same thing. This city has roads that reflect that look like the surface of the moon. We have sewer lines that may not be connected to other sewer lines. We have a library that's only open 5 days a week. A couple weeks ago, I pulled up to find it closed and a bunch of school kids sitting out front shivering in the cold. We've got a senior center that, we don't know what to do with and how much it's going to cost, but we know it's going to be, a large bill if we decide to maintain it or renovate it. The city manager himself wants to renovate City Hall. There are way too many important things for this city to get done before we spend any tax dollars on this art project. And frankly, Pastor Traxel said it himself. He mentions Clausen, and everybody says, "Oh yeah, I know Clausen. I know the restaurants. I love the downtown." I'm not sure we need this, but if someone wants to put up the money outside the taxpayers, hey, I'll listen to that.
Just for clarification, they're not technically tax dollars because we haven't discussed how it would be funded, but the rumor has always been ARPA funds, which are not technically our tax dollars. So please don't let it out there that we're going to spend our tax dollars on this without some kind of a conversation.
Mayor Milan, I respectfully suggest that ARPA tax dollars are our tax dollars.
ARPA dollars are federal funds that ultimately may have been derived via taxes, but they're not our tax dollars in the way that you're trying to make it sound like we're going to take dollars out of our coffers that would be given for roads and other improvements or daily operation. That is not the plan. That wasn't ever discussed. I just want to ensure that there's no thought that that's what would potentially happen, even though we've not even discussed what could potentially happen. Anyone else? Councilmember Anderson?
Mr. Bienkowski.
No, I'm the chair. Councilmember Anderson?
I'm not an artist. I'm not a patron of the arts. But I know enough that when a person looks at art, they're supposed to feel better. I think the proposal is beautiful, and I think it would only enhance the downtown. As the pastor already mentioned, the town has a good reputation. The art would only enhance that. So I'm sure all our visitors and those who patron the businesses would get a good feeling looking at this beautiful piece of art. But there's another side of the coin, which is the residents of the city. I'm concerned many of them will look at the art and not feel good because they'll feel the city wasted their tax money on something they didn't have the money for. So I have to balance these two feelings against each other. So with taxpayer money, there will be many of our citizens who have newly voted in a tax increase who will not be happy with it. The feeling, when they look at the art, they'll feel bad, and it will defeat the purpose of it. Now that said, if it is funded by private means, as the pro tem has mentioned, I think that at that point people will say, yeah, I feel good. I'm glad some citizens got together and funded it through private means. At that point, everyone can enjoy a good feeling from the art. And in fact, I can speak theoretically, but let me put some money behind my wall. If anybody donates to this 501c you suggested, I'll match them dollar for dollar, up to $1,000. So right now, I'm in the hook for up to $500, whoever wants to match me. That's how strongly I feel that the art is a good idea, but should only be funded through private means. So if I got some takers, I'm in for $500.
May I ask, if we were to have a public art project that was privately funded, what are the implications for the city as far as location, liability, blah, blah, blah? Are there any?
There'll be, but of course you can make it happen, absolutely.
Well, I like that it's hopeful, and I would love the idea of us investing back in ourselves. As I was thinking about my time on city council, members on this dais have had no problem spending money on things we got nothing out of, to watch people walk out the door, make sure they had a good life after they were here, for nefarious reasons, for paying attorneys more and more, and for all of those things. So I'm not saying there's no dollar associated with it today. There's no move to move forward with it, but I would like us to at least be honest about how we spend our dollars and what we get out of it. And I personally would see this as investing in ourselves and investing in our community. And I have no problem with private funding, of course, but I've never heard a discussion on where the funds would entirely come from. And it would, of course, be a board decision, and I respect the board, but I also think that it would be a really great project should we get it going. So I guess next step would be to get that 501c3 thing going, find some people who are active and willing to support, maybe put it out to the community and see where we could get some support, because it would be nice to have something where we just support ourselves and say we did this amongst ourselves. I can think of the clock situation where 2 young girls were able to rally some funds in a relatively short period of time for something that was important to them to make our community, our downtown better. So with a little bit of help, we could do anything. Councilmember Binkowski?
I just wanted to get some clarification from the city manager. We have allocated all the ARPA funds, and the last portion of them were allocated towards the police department, correct?
For the third time, at the advice of Yo and Yo, our auditor, who stood here and told us that they could be transferred for payroll for public safety, which was done. So those funds were passed through the general fund. They are, for all intents and purposes, in the fund balance to be identified as, hey, these are the monies that were passed through, and this is technically what you have left of the ARPA funds
So
as general fund dollars.
So technically, what we have is a surplus of general funds that we had that we were planning to pay the police, but we used the ARPA money to pay the police, correct?
I don't think that's an exact characterization. I don't think that's very accurate.
So we're not using the ARPA funds for the police?
It was passed through the general fund for the justification of the expenditure with Yo and Yo, our auditor here, as a justification because the funds had to be expended by the end of the calendar year 2024.
It's an interesting explanation, but thank you.
Well, I mean, if I have to give it a fourth time, I'll put it as an agenda item.
We got it.
Thank you.
Thank you for the explanation. Hey, thank you very much for the presentation. I really appreciate it. I know each of you has expended a lot of time and a lot of effort, and you're really committed to this. I'd be happy to see us figure out a way to make it happen. And thank you so much for that, for giving of yourself. And I do have this, and I will not keep it. And I know you want it, so I'm going to put it up here so you can grab it right now. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have item number 10, unfinished business. Do we have any unfinished business? That is a great answer, because that moves us to item number 11, which is public comments for items not on the agenda. Mrs. McCauley, this is your opportunity. I'm just calling you out for items not on the agenda. And for anyone else who would like to speak for items not on the agenda, I will ask that you state your name and your address, keep it fair, and we'll give you 3 minutes.
At 83, I'm on the field side. For you, Mayor Merland. At the first meeting that I attended, I have to say that I was married at 18, 3 kids at 21. I spent my life taking care of my kids. And in 91, I finally became free, and along came COVID. But anyhow, I'm now interested in the city, how it runs and how it works. And is the city charter that we just voted on and adopted not like a Bible to the city? Can that be changed? Ask direct question. I'm wondering if the city council can make changes on that. Okay, you can't answer me, I know that. But who do I, you can't answer that either. I need to email somebody. Who wants my email?
Our city attorney would be well-versed on addressing that
Our city
question
attorney?
as well.
Oh,
He is
right.
just-
Not of the Bible, but of the charter.
That's
yes,
two
ma'am.
things. Okay, curiosity, because the election that's coming up in May is changing the city charter. Okay?
Yes.
You can't say anything, but I can.
Oh, you're doing great.
I know. Thank you so very much. I'm going back to my seat.
Oh, well, you're welcome back anytime.
My kids are watching this.
Thank you very much. They're proud of you, don't worry. Would anyone else like to speak? Come on up, sir.
Hi, my name is Chris McLaughlin. I live at 1871 Spring Grove Road in Bloomfield Hills. I'm not a resident of Clawson, but I am here in my capacity as the state director for the Secular Alliance of Michigan. What that is it's an alliance of local communities of people who are non-religious, people who describe themselves as atheists, agnostics, skeptics, humanists. There's all sorts of names that people who are non-believers that they go by. I'm not here because of any specific wrongdoing or anything. I want to leave your mind at ease. Although, being at this meeting, I did notice that there are quite a few elements of this government meeting that are not friendly to non-believers. Like, for example, I'm looking right under the mayor, and there are the words, "In God we trust," which is not true. 1 in 8 residents of Clawson are not religious. They do not believe in a God. And so that's not a true statement. And it's not very friendly to people who aren't believers. Imagine, as a counterpart who is a believer, if this sign said, "In no gods we trust." And imagine how unwelcoming that would feel. Or if you had to start a meeting with a Pledge of Allegiance that said something to the effect of, "One nation under no gods," and you had to say that to be a part of this event. Or what was the other thing? Oh, we had a Christian prayer earlier. Imagine if I came here as a representative of non-religious people and talked to you folks about, well, of course there's no gods, right? And so let's all agree. And we all said, huzzah, right, instead of amen. So again, not very welcoming, but that's not really what I wanted to come here to speak about. What I wanted to talk about is I just wanted to introduce us, non-religious folks, and tell you a little bit about the demographics of non-religious folks.
No, your 3 minutes is almost up. I just,
Okay.
a few other people.
Thank you. So just really quickly, again, we make up about 16% of the population of Michigan. We tend to be, that's on par with most major religious denominations like Catholics or mainline Protestants. We tend to have high income, high education compared to the average. Those things are correlated. We give to charity, again, on par with our religious counterparts. And we have a very low population of prison population.
Time.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Nate Hara, 413 Park Drive. I just wanted to say thank you, all of you, for your service and your commitment and your ability to volunteer under terrible circumstances. Thank you, Mr. City Manager, for taking care of our city. I was especially grateful for the sewer jetting this week in my street. He did a very good job, probably was out there all day, so thank you for that. Thank you for all of you. It's terrible what you have to go through and the sense of paranoia sometimes, but I know you're all very good people, and I happen to believe that you can tell a good person by the fruits of their labor, and I'm lucky to know many of you and many of your families, your children, the fruits of your labor at work, and I just hope that the ugliness that is coming sometimes to the city through various people and various circumstances doesn't change the goodness that is in each of you. And thank you for being such a good inspiration to me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else? Good evening.
Hey guys. Hey, my name's Jim Kleiner. I actually live in Ferndale, but I come to Clawson all the time. Like, I love Clawson. I just wanted to say that. I was just over at the brewery on the corner, and then I went over to the Katina with some friends the other night. And I mean, I come here for my water, for my pet food, for the pot pies, for Motor City Float. I'm upset that Joe's isn't here anymore, but yeah. Yeah. Secondly, I appreciate you sharing your story. Yeah, I just kind of wrote this. I appreciate you speaking up and standing up to bullies and not giving up or cowering down or quitting. That's the right thing to do. And I commend your courage to fight for like what you believe is right. So thank you for sharing that. Just like what's right in your heart. And, you know, I too fight for justice and fair treatment on behalf of my community. I'm here with the secular group as well. So we're really just going around to a lot of city council meetings and just trying to get to know everyone. We kind of live in the shadows, and we don't really need to anymore. There's like a lot of different minority groups that are out there, and we live in fear all the time just because we are in a big minority in that sense where, you know, there is under God on things, and like that's fine. I'm okay with that. It's just like it's weird. Like there's a lot of like I guess like hate towards us in ways just because people don't really understand us. So that's on us. We're trying to get out there and show people that we're normal people just like everyone else. You know, we have morals, we have families, we have things, we have values, and we're just trying to kind of like get out there and make ourselves known. We go around to a lot of different city council meetings, and we talk to different people at different city councils. We've been all over Southeast Michigan, and just trying to get out there, really. I have a whole speech. I was just kind of just talking. But yeah, we appreciate you guys doing what you do. I know that you have tough jobs. You're not going to make everyone happy with everything that you do all the time. And so thank you for being part of government too. Like a lot of people don't want to do that. So thank you guys for doing that. Other than that, yeah, I was just kind of winging it now. We thank you for your time. Yeah, hopefully you guys get to know us more and just know that we're normal, good people just like everyone else. So thank you guys. Have a good night.
Thanks for coming today. Good evening.
Hello. My name's Heather Rinkovich. I live at 133 Red Ruth Avenue. I'm a 30-year resident of Clawson. I'm here this evening to speak about the charter amendments and the ballot proposals, i.e. the special election notice I received for May 6, 2025. As a longtime Clawson resident, I'll be honest, I was really surprised to receive an email from MI Elections about an absentee voter status update. I was unaware of any impending election or election cycle. I consider myself to be pretty savvy and civically minded, but I did some quick research and information brought me to the special election here in Clawson on May 6th, and it was in regards to the amendments proposed to the new city charter, which only took effect January 1st, 2024. I was pretty shocked, to be honest, that we were already seeing proposals come across to be voted upon by the city of Clawson, and that we were going to have a special election to vote upon amendments to a portion of an updated charter, a charter that we literally just adopted, and amendments on areas of a new charter that have not even taken effect yet. I would very much like the record to please take note of that fact. Like I said, I'm pretty civically minded, and I wondered how I missed this ballot petition. I know many of us have been pretty focused on national news and national politics as of late, but I've learned recently that political change starts locally. So I've turned my focus inwards here to Clawson, and I appreciate the information too that you shared, Mayor, this evening earlier before things kind of turned. I think a lot of it does start on council. A lot of our political starts and first start on city council. And I think a lot of us were looking forward to things like an expansion of city council and opportunities to have seats on city council, hence an expansion of city council. So I also wondered why I hadn't seen a petition, and then I read, again, doing some research, that the council only needs a majority of a 3-2 majority to get this ballot on proposal for a vote. So I'll be back at the next meeting to discuss. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jamie Gills, Takanochi, 1072 North Stephen. I think you said your name is Heather. Maybe I'll pick up some of what you were getting to. I just agreed with everything that Heather said, so I'm gonna try to go from there. For me, personally, when I voted on the charter, I paid attention to every change. I read the old one, I read the new one. There were things I liked, there were things I did not like, right? And as a voter, I couldn't say, I only like this. So I'm going to vote yes here and no here, right? I had to weigh it. And the citizens of Clawson weighed that, and they decided overall that's what they wanted, right? We said, our voices said, we want this, right? Because one of the things I weighed was a 4-year mayoral term. I didn't want one. I've watched the city council for years. I think it's very dysfunctional. And I said, I can live with a 4-year mayoral term if I have 7 people, because there's less of this them versus us, right? We have a chance of breaking that. When I walked in today, and I walked in the middle of the mayor starting, so I didn't hear the beginning of what she said, but what I did hear is the people on my right, the people on my left, the people on my right, right? It's very divided here and here from what I can see. It would be nice to have new voices, and it would be nice to have a tone of civility as you're speaking to each other, right? I think the mayor had every right to talk about what she was upset about. I do take issue with the demeaning little things she put in her talk. The little man, he was panting, you could see him. She made fun of whatever motion he was doing. I think there's a way to make confrontation without it being an attack. And I see it, that's not the only thing I see, right? But that was the obvious one to me. You know, I wasn't here, I don't know what happened, but should anybody ever toss something in front of somebody? No, that's not civil either, right? So that's a problem, but the biggest problem is I think you're not listening to us, and we voted for you. Not only did you decide to put this on the ballot, you decided not to wait until November. So now we have to pay for it again. So now you're wasting our taxpayer money, because this is taxpayer money, right? So you decided, or 3 of you decided, that was the one thing you couldn't live with. You couldn't make the hard decision all the voters did by saying, what's really important to me, and how am I going to vote on this whole thing, even if there are bits I don't like? I would love to hear how many people came to you. Okay, I'll be back.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Tamara Buchanan. I live at 20459 Woodmont in Harper Woods. My family is a longtime resident of Clawson, and my grandmother, my great-grandmother, my aunts, and their spouses have all lived there their whole life. Honorable members of the City Council, thank you for the attention you provide me. I am here as a member of this diverse, broader community, and as an atheist, one of many in this community. We are your neighbors, your coworkers, your friends, and your constituents. Yet, all too often, our secular voices are overlooked in discussion about policy and representation and inclusive community values. We are a diverse nation founded on principles that protect both freedom of religion and freedom from religion. The separation of church and state is not about hostility towards faith. It is about ensuring that government remains neutral so that people of all beliefs, including those with no religious convictions, are treated equally within the policies under the law. Religious freedom is best protected when the government does not favor one faith over another or impose religious values on public life. Hence, we must remain vigilant against efforts that seek to blur this Constitution direct boundary. Christian nationalism, an ideology that conflates religious identity with political power overtly as well as covertly, threatens this balance, often at an expense of marginalized as well as secular community members. Recognizing and acknowledging secular members of this city does not diminish anyone's faith. It simply affirms that we too belong. Like all communities, we seek fairness, respect, and assurance that decisions made in this chambers reflects the interest of all residents, not just those of a particular faith tradition. As city leaders, you have the responsibility to uphold the Constitution, to ensure that policy is based on reason and shared values rather than religious doctrine. That means recognizing and including the contributions and concerns of secular individuals in the outcomes of public discussions. It means ensuring that government meetings, public funds, civic spaces remain open, animable, and responsive to everyone, regardless of belief. Being seen and heard is not a demand for special treatment. It is called for equal standing. It is a reminder that democracy thrives on diversity and that true religious freedoms exist only when one religion is not placed above others or above the lives or above those who live without one. I urge you to uphold the principles of inclusion and fairness, to acknowledge as well as be responsive to secular members of this community.
Time.
And to ensure, thank you so much. Have a good night.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, my name is Laura Lentz. I live at 1786 Oxford Road, Grosse Pointe Woods. I am a resident of the general area. I've lived in Clawson, Royal Oak. I was born in Royal Oak. And like my friends over there, I'm also an atheist. I come from a family that was raised Christian, and I have always respected others' religions, others' experiences, because at the end of the day, it's human experiences. But I have noticed that atheism and atheists in general act as a fantastic form of a bellwether in terms of society. We are outsiders in terms of religion by choice. No, personally, I can't bring myself to believe, and I support everybody else believing. I can't do it myself. It just doesn't work for me. I'm sorry. But we are a fantastic bellwether in terms of that we don't necessarily promote atheism, we promote secularism. So the moment we start getting pushed out, that's a red flag for everyone else. If someone may say, "In God we trust," who's God? The God of the Protestants, the God of the Baptists, the God of the Catholicism, because they all have different interpretations. They'll say it's the same God, but at the end of the day, it's really not. I urge you to take into consideration that not respecting and taking care of your community in terms of the atheists is bad for everyone. It's going to, oh gosh, where was I going with this? Sorry, I don't normally do this, I'm kind of nervous. I really think you need to take into consideration things like In God We Trust and how that's going to affect everyone, including the people in the community who voted for you, who care about you, who take care of you. Thanks.
Thank you, Laura. Is there anyone else?
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Carol Kolinsky, and I'm at 817 Phillips Avenue. And I would just like to understand a little bit more about the lead service line replacements and what the schedule is for those activities. That's one item. Another thing, I would also like to propose that they do tree plantings on the easements where they had removed all of those large trees. Instead of spending the money on the heart or anything like that, those trees will stand a testament to the future and will be able to provide us with some greenery and sustain the community as well as the environment. And the other thing is in regard to safety, I would actually like to propose speed bumps on Phillips Avenue because there is no stop sign coming from Crooks to Bywood. And even if there were, people don't stop at stop signs. There's a lot of kids in the neighborhood. There's people with dogs. And I just think that it's just incumbent upon the city to put a speed bump, at least to test it, to see if it works. Because there is one accident and, one death would be way too much for the city. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks for coming this evening. Good evening.
Hello, my name is Jill Bunn and I reside at 409 South Weebeck Avenue, Clawson, Michigan. I'm here because I, like Heather, got a notice in my email that there was going to be a special election. A special election or special ballot, I should say, to disregard what we voted on. What we as Clawson members voted on, we wanted to expand the city council. And seeing the interactions here tonight between all of you shows that we need more people. We need more people to diffuse these situations, more voices, and we just voted on this. We wanted it to be expanded. And so I'm not sure why we're using our tax dollars to have a special ballot in May. I think it's really irresponsible and a waste of our tax dollars. When you look at our roads, when you look at a lot of other things that need some updating here in Clawson, and I've lived here for 18 years now, and well, almost 19, and raised my daughter here, and we voted on this charter, and it should not be changed by, a 3-2 vote. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Is there anyone else? Okay, not seeing anyone else come. We're going to close public comment for items not on the agenda and go to our city clerk's report. Michelle, do you have a report for us this evening?
Just a report on the absentee ballots will be available on March 27th and hopefully be in the mail on that day as well. Our plan is to get them out that day. To remind everyone of the temporary voting location changes, Precinct 1 will vote at Baker Administration Building, Precinct 4 will vote at Grace Apostolic Church, and Precinct 5 will vote at Grace Apostolic Church. Early voting will be held at the City of Troy Community Center, April 26th to May 4th. That's all I have, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Michelle?
Can I ask a question? And I'm just asking because some of the comments that were made and someone sent me an email and asked me to, if you could again reiterate the cost of the special election. I know last meeting you said that the advance voting was going to cost like $5,000.
That's the early voting.
That early voting, yeah, was about
staffing.
$5,000. And then the cost of the election itself was, I think, $7,000.
Well, I think that the special elections usually run you around between $18,000 to $20,000 in general.
Okay. Does that include the early voting?
Well, early voting has just, started, so I think this will be like the fourth election for early voting. So that's still a work in progress to find out the exact costs for a special election or for a city election. And, so we're waiting. So after this election, we'll know better what that cost will be.
So that makes the total about 25-ish ballparky?
Could be. Although we could keep it, near 20, depending on the precincts and the staffing at our local precincts as well.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. City Attorney's report, Mr. Newshy.
Nothing this evening, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. City Manager's report, Mr. Aker.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Sewer cleaning and inspection is in full swing, aside from whether our service provider encounter numerous equipment and staffing issues, leaving us currently only at 11% complete with the citywide televising cleaning of our sewers. We anticipate this project to be completed in August or before. As a reminder, we have a sectional map of the city that is updated when necessary and is located on the City of Clawson website under DPW and Engineering, Cleaning and Televising Sewers. The map now reflects 2 sections complete with a 3rd section underway. As a reminder, we will be hosting a budget discussion at the special meeting scheduled for May 25th at 7 p.m. in the community room. Also, as a reminder, I will have proposed budget workshop dates on the April 1st agenda, but after the budget pre-brief, which will also be on the agenda. At the request of the Oakland County Treasurer, Robert Wittenberg, I've been requested to read the following letter. It's titled, Oakland County Treasurer's Office Foreclosure Prevention. The Oakland County Treasurer's Office is in the final stretch of our foreclosure prevention efforts. The tax foreclosure deadline for the 2022 and prior year dates is on March 31st, 2025. That means if these taxes aren't paid by March 31st, or any interested party hasn't entered into a repayment schedule with the Treasurer's Office by then, the property will be foreclosed. Since December of 2024, the Treasurer's Office has conducted over 1,000 taxpayer assistant meetings to assist taxpayers with keeping their properties by working with them to get on a repayment schedule and/or by identifying resources that may be beneficial to them and their situation. We are here to help and strongly encourage taxpayers to contact us before the tax foreclosure deadline if they have delinquent taxes for 2022 and/or prior tax years. Taxpayers interested in scheduling a taxpayer assistance meeting may call us at 248-858-061, or they may visit this county website at www.oakgov.com/treasurer. Thank you, Robert Wittenberg, Oakland County Treasurer. That's my.
And clarification, the budget meeting, March 25th, right?
Yes,
said
pardon me.
May.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, just to make
It's
sure.
It's March 25th, which is next Tuesday, 7 p.m. in the community room.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the city manager? Okay, then city council comments, Councilmember Binkowski,
Nothing for me.
Mayor Pro Tem.
I just want to address our visitors and let you know that you're not alone. I personally am an agnostic, and I sit here on the dais, and I will also say that there was a time where instead of a Christian prayer, I gave a pagan prayer, that our city has welcomed a variety of denominations and people of all thoughts to speak at the beginning of the meeting, but I just know that the people willing to come and do that have diminished, and it's hard to get people to come forward. So we are inclusive in that sense, and they accept crazy old me. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you. Councilmember Anderson?
No comment.
Councilmember Shepherd?
No comment this evening.
Okay, then next item we have is a consideration of going into closed session for purposes of receiving, oh no, wait, I have to stop for 1 second. I have to go back to council comments. Don't sigh, it's important.
No, sorry. I'm so close.
In the beginning of the meeting, I shared my concerns about the issues of serving and the difficulties. And the reason I shared what I did was because it moved beyond words into actions, and that bothered me. And I spoke of bad things, and I don't come to this room on Tuesday nights or any other night looking at the bad things. I come here and I look at the hopeful things. I look at the things that we've been able to do together as a team, and look at what we can do to move this community forward, and look at ways to try and build bridges with people who don't necessarily want to work on the same bridge with us, but often come to conclusion to be able to do things that are good. So I just want to give a shout out to all of those people who have been encouraging to me, who have made this road enjoyable. And for those who've challenged me and made me better, I appreciate you as well. This is not for the faint of heart. I will just say that straight up. We respect, I hope we show respect to everyone who comes here. And I know sometimes we're like family and things get a little touchy, but we're here because we care about this community, because we want to do what's best for them. So to my supporters, whether there's 3 of them or how many ever. I just want to say thank you. I pray for this community, and don't take offense at that. This is who I am, and it's what fuels me to keep me going here, just like whatever fuels you to keep you going here. And that is my strength and my power and my ability to see light in darkness. So I just want to say that to everyone, that I appreciate the good far more than the crazy little things that bring me down, because I'm not going to stay down, because that's not where my joy comes from. So in saying that, I'll move to item number 16 and say consideration of going into closed session for purposes of receiving attorney-client privileged communications regarding the matter of Bywood Square LLC versus the City of Clawson and Village Landing LLC versus the City of Clawson pursuant to MCL 15.268H of the Open Meetings Act.
I move to go into closed session for the purposes of receiving attorney-client privilege communication regarding the matter of Bywood Square LLC versus City of Clawson and Village Landing LLC versus City of Clawson pursuant to MCL 15.268 sub H of the Open Meetings Act be approved.
So-
Thank you. Michelle?
Councilmember Binkowski,
Yes.
Mayor Milan,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Moffett,
Yes.
Councilmember Shepherd,
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We're going to leave this room, go into closed session, and we will, once we're complete in that room, come back and close out the meeting. Thank you to all who came today, and thank you for all who came and shared your thoughts. We appreciate you. Okay, we are back from our closed session, and we have someone who's ready to make a motion.
I move that we authorize the city attorney to move forward with the action as discussed.
Support.
Roll call, please, Michelle.
Councilmember Shepherd?
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Binkowski?
Yes.
Mayor Milan?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Moffett?
Yes.
Thank you. Our city attorney will act appropriately, and I will call for adjournment to this meeting.
Motion
Support.
adjourned?
Support.
Roll call, please, Michelle.
Councilmember Anderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Binkowski?
Yes.
Mayor Milan?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Moffett?
Yes.
Councilmember Shepherd?
Yes.
Thank you, everyone. Meeting adjourned.